Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Lee and I'm Program Manager on Azure Compute. And today we're going to be talking about keeping your Azure App Service and Azure Function apps healthy and happy. All right, let's get started. So this is what we're going to cover in this session. We're going to go over an overview of what PaaS and serverless actually means. And then for each platform, we're going to have demos to walk through what possible things can go wrong, what can happen when those things do go wrong, and how we can use our tools and App Service Diagnostics to actually help you and empower you to self-troubleshoot those types of issues. All right, so with PaaS and serverless, PaaS being platform as a service, the really great benefit is that you're able to quickly deploy and scale your app without having to worry about maintaining the underlying infrastructure. You don't have to worry about upgrading, maintaining. You pay us to basically manage that particular SLA while you can actually focus on building out your application. So you're able to be more productive, it's a fully managed experience, and it's enterprise grade. Under the particular app service umbrella, like I said earlier, you have platform as a service as well as serverless. So we have web apps, so that's our PaaS platform where you can quickly deploy and scale your fully managed web apps. So if you have an HTTP workload, this is definitely the place for you. If you're running a web app inside a container, we also have web app for containers. And app service environment for those more secure network access workloads and has even higher scaling capabilities. On the serverless side, we have Azure Functions, which is our serverless platform that is basically the best way for you to execute event-driven scale, and you can just worry about building out your code pieces one at a time. So it's a really great experience to kind of get onboarded to both App Service environment, and Azure Functions. It's really, really easy to get up and going. But I want to go over in this session how you can actually think about how to self-troubleshoot issues that could potentially happen. So a lot of times you might notice that your web app is operating healthily and happily and nothing's going wrong. But sometimes, on occasion, here are the types of symptoms you may see down on the left-hand side here. So maybe your web app is down, or you can't deploy, or you're getting 5xx errors. When that happens, that can be pretty scary, especially since if you're running mission-critical workloads. And a lot of times, these are what I call symptoms. So this is something that you notice that is surfaced up to you, whether you have alerting or monitoring to actually surface that up. But a lot of times you don't actually know what's going wrong, what the actual root cause, and therefore the next step and the troubleshooting steps you need to take after you see that particular symptom. So that's when I move over to the right-hand side, the actual problem and diagnosis, what actually happened. So I kind of separate this in a lot of different categories. So on the reactive side of things, after you notice an issue, you can have issues in your application code itself. So unfortunately, maybe someone wrote something that was consuming a lot of memory or a lot of CPU, so on and so forth. You have issues with your deployment. Or configuration or management. You may have misconfigured something related to your app service and Azure Function and something's going wrong there. Certificates and domains, and also at the end of the day, availability and performance. So like understanding why your web app may be down or performing slowly. Also, in addition to this, there are proactive best practices that you can do to actually implement and prevent these problems from happening. But basically, the gist of it is how do you relate particular symptoms that you notice happening to your web app or function app and relate that to the underlying problem and root cause and get to a diagnosis that you can use to troubleshoot that issue and also proactively prevent it from happening again. Or at least if it does happen again, collect the right information to investigate it further. So we're going to move into a demo of App Service Diagnostics, which is the tool that our team has built to help you with just that. All right, so like I said earlier, App Service can work with both Windows or Linux. Both have the really great fully managed experience. So I'm going to go and dive deep into Node Bakery, which is an App Service on Linux app. It's running in Node. And to access App Service Diagnostics, you're going to click on Diagnose and Solve Problems. All right, great. So earlier when I tried to navigate to nodebakery.azurewebsites.net, I noticed that on a particular page I couldn't access it really. I was getting an error. So I'm going to go in and click on available performance because my app is currently experiencing downtime and or slowness, which is what this particular tile is all about. And if you notice, you look at this screen, these different tiles are basically the big bucket categories that you might have an issue with. So when you are using App Service Diagnostics yourself, click on the one that best fits your problem. So here we're introduced to Genie, which is this interactive guided interface to actually guide me, who may be a novice user or experienced user, down the troubleshooting flow. So as you can see here, it presents to me a few different options, a few different tiles that I can use to troubleshoot my issue. So the one that relates closely to my problem is that my web app is down. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And what this is doing is actually running these detectors that analyze backend telemetry from our platform to highlight specific issues that I should drill in further. The issue with having an issue is that sometimes when bad things happen to your app, a lot of bad things are happening at the same time. So in order to actually isolate down the problem, we're helping you by having these status codes up on the left-hand side to kind of indicate where the critical issues are, where you're successful, and where there might be warnings, indicated in the red, green, and orange status icons. So I see that I definitely have two very glaring issues, so I'm going to click the View Full Report to analyze that further. All right, great. So this is the analysis page that we have landed on. So as you can see, availability was great, but then it started tanking down here. And then you can also see the requests and errors to kind of double check that for you as well. But what I'm most curious about is this red status icon under application logs. So I'm going to go ahead and expand this. So all of these actually down here are all expandable. So make sure you check all of them out. Even if they are green, I might as well use that as a sanity check. So we're going to click on application logs. And right here, I notice that there's a quick call out in this insight telling me that I have the wrong port exposed. So if I read this insight, I see that the exposed port by my container is port 5000, but the app is actually listening on port 8080. So that's a really great observation as summarized here. And what is really critical is that even if you have all this data, you want to know what you should do next. So we have this nice recommendation here to actually tell me, oh, I need to go ahead and change the websites _ port in my application settings to port 8080, so I don't have the wrong port exposed. So that's a really great insight, and that's what I, as the application developer, would go ahead and do and hopefully fix this issue. That's great, right? So that's really awesome and helps you feel empowered to actually solve this issue. To kind of go ahead, there's also a lot more information offered in this analysis page. So if you go ahead and try to prove this yourself, you can see the application logs from this particular instance. And if you scroll further down, you can see the Docker logs, specifically that point out this particular error. So we actually auto-highlight the logs that we referred to in that particular insight that I showed earlier. So I can see right here, that's unfortunately where I made the error for my application setting. So I can prove to myself that the insight that I saw in this particular detector is actually what's going on. So just a little bit more information for you to kind of make sure this is what's actually happening. So this is great, a fully encapsulated way for you to solve your problem. So definitely go ahead and check this out. I'm actually going to go back to Genie to see what other things Genie can offer me. So I fixed the application logs error, and hopefully that gets my web app up and running again. But what's really cool is that you can actually keep going down the troubleshooting workflow. Maybe you have other issues you want to investigate, other tiles you want to look at, or even you can search documentation. So if I click on this button here, I actually can go ahead and say like, oh, I'm actually interested in deployment slots and how to configure that in App Service. So I'm going to go ahead and click search documentation, and this does a web search of all the relevant documentation that could help you here. So you can go ahead and kind of treat this as a one-stop shop solution for you when you're having issues or trying to figure out how to do things. And like I said, if you want to see further tiles, you can just click on Show Tile menu and see all the above tiles that we looked at before. So that's great. So now you know how to troubleshoot your App Service on Linux app, and also this experience is fully available for App Service on Windows as well. So that's exactly where I'm going to move on to next. So let's check out this other app I have called Build Bakery. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, we are separating these types of ways of how we think about troubleshooting in two different categories, reactive and proactive. Reactive is when you're already dealing with an issue, you're trying to figure out the root cause, trying to figure out how to fix it. So that's exactly what we did by fixing the wrong port setting. However, how can we actually proactively make sure that we're setting up ourselves for success? There's two different tiles I want you to point you to in App Service on Windows. So we have this best practice tile, which actually is really great and also has analysis and in terms of analyzing web app to make sure that's optimized for production. So it looks very similar to the experience we had before, so you should all check that out. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into diagnostic tools, where we actually have our brand new capability called proactive CPU monitoring. So in diagnostic tools, this is actually a stack specific, so I have a .NET application here, and I want to draw your attention to this this side of the screen right here. So these two things, auto healing and proactive CPU monitoring, are basically allowing you to perform self-mitigation or collect further information without you having to manually do that. So let's go into one of our new features that we have for Build, which is proactive CPU monitoring. All right, so proactive CPU monitoring is actually a really cool way to provide you a way to take an action when your app or child process for your app is consuming high CPU. So if I actually go into the availability and performance section of this particular application, I can see CPU spiking up and down, and it goes all the way up to 80%. And a lot of times that happens in the past. So maybe I'm not collecting the proper logs to actually investigate that error and have to wait for that error to surface again. So next time when I see this, I want to make sure that we actually automatically collect those logs. I don't want to be woken up at 1 a.m. to actually go in and kind of troubleshoot this issue. So I'm going to turn on proactive CPU monitoring. So I'm going to click on. And these are all the conditions that you can actually choose to run that particular action on. So for example, I want to say anytime the CPU is above 80% for 30 seconds, monitor it every 15 seconds. And I want to be able to collect the appropriate memory dump for that particular time, and also kill the process that is consuming high CPU. So to prevent and actually have a kind of a mitigation step in the meantime before I wake up in the morning to actually go and investigate the memory dump and kind of analyze that further. So you can see a summary of the rule configuration here, and click Save, and that basically start the process of monitoring your site's process for high CPU and doing the collection of the memory dump and also killing of the process when appropriate, when those conditions are met. So you can see these are completed ones that I've set up before, so I can go ahead and analyze that memory dump if need be. But now I feel like very empowered to be able to actually understand what's going wrong when there's a high CPU issue to better debug that type of issue. So definitely go ahead and check out our proactive tools, and especially check out our newest one, proactive CPU monitoring. All right, so now that we focused on the app service side of the business, such as App Service on Linux and App Service on Windows, it's time to move on to Azure Functions, which is our serverless side. So I'm going to go in here, and basically I have this particular Azure function, and it is causing a lot of issues. It's not triggering correctly, so I'm going to go ahead and investigate this issue as well. So again, we're going to go to the Diagnose and Solve Problems tab here. So under Platform Features, under Resource Management, you can click on Diagnose and Solve Problems to take you to the diagnostics and Genie experience that we talked about earlier. So we're going to go in here, click on Available and Performance, and kind of look at the very same kind of structure that Genie presents to us earlier. You can see all these different tiles are specifically catered to functions. So functions is particularly unique because a lot of times it is your code issue. The reason why it's serverless is that you don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructure, but it makes it very difficult to sometimes find the exact exception or figuring out why certain functions are failing. So in this particular one, I kind of want to look at why my function app is down or reporting errors. So I'm going to go click on that particular tile. And what I really like about this interface is that it makes it super easy. So hopefully as you explore all the other tiles available to you, all of this is very self-explanatory. So again, it runs all the different detectors that we have mapped to your particular function and highlights in the status code what we should look into a little bit more. So again, I'm going to go in and click the View Full Report and see what's going on. All right, awesome. So you see most of the things have loaded here. So we're actually going to go in and check out some of the warnings that we see. So the first one I see here is function app settings check. So this is particularly interesting because it actually looks at the different app settings that you have configured for your function app. So for example, here we have website_HTTP scale v2 enabled. So this is basically recommending me to not set this at 0. And what I really like about this particular experience is that we want to make sure that we have more information to give you when you're diagnosing these types of issues. So make sure to check out the more information link as well, because we want to make sure this is a one-stop shop. Not only are you getting monitoring and kind of metrics, you're also getting those things and that type of data in context. So you try to pre-analyze those things for you and give you documentation and appropriate ways to actually address that particular issue. And that's a really great resource to check out as well. And then also what's really great is that we really value your feedback, and this is something new that we also have added, which is these feedback buttons. So make sure to tell us if you found that particular insight helpful or unhelpful. And also at the top of this page, you can see you can actually send feedback and rate this particular detector out of 5 stars. All right, so scrolling down for this function-specific diagnostics, so actually looking at particular functions inside your function app, we actually see this glaringly red error in functions execution errors. So if you look here, you actually can see the different functions that are throwing exceptions and actually isolate down what's actually happening. So hopefully all of you have application insights turned on for your functions as well. But this is another really great tool to kind of see that data in context and to get further information about how you can further monitor your insights in Azure Functions here as well. And also, honestly, a lot of times if you notice that your application insights may not have the data you like, you should definitely check out Diagnostics and Genie to see if there's anything you're missing there. And as I said earlier, we want to make this a one-stop shop so you can actually see the different execution statuses for your different functions. So use this drop-down to navigate between different functions inside the same function app. And if you go down additionally, we also have our frequently asked questions as well. So you can kind of go to this one page and get a lot of information out of it instead of trying to open up different tabs to find different pieces of documentation. So functions is actually a really huge category of issues that we went and tackled for build. So definitely check out the functions diagnostics experience for functions detectors that will help you solve your next function issue. All right, so that's it for the demos. We're going to go back to the PowerPoint to recap. All right, so key takeaways. App Service Diagnostics is an interactive and intelligent experience for you to self-troubleshoot and investigate your app issues. So basically, you're able to diagnose and troubleshoot your issues yourself, as well as learn about best practices for production and run those best practice checks against your actual application. So you don't have to go and try to find those things yourself. You should use Genie to actually guide you through each problem category tile and figure out which one applies to your particular issue from the symptom side of things so you can get better and more efficient at diagnosing and finding the root cause of the problem that you're dealing with. and make sure to use diagnostic tools to analyze and look at the proactive measures that you can take, such as proactive CPU monitoring that we offer as a way for you to collect and perform mitigation actions without you having to manually do that yourself. Third, we have intelligent search capabilities as well. So if you notice back in the home page, you actually can search for the different detectors that you're interested in. So you can search for application logs or search for function execution errors. And also, the best part of App Service Diagnostics is that it's straight out of the box. You don't need to configure anything additionally. You don't need to add or approve or honestly pay extra for this experience. So definitely take advantage of that, because you can use this starting from day one to really help you through your operations of your web app or function app later on. So to continue, I encourage all of you to try App Service Diagnostics. So use that as a starting point to guide you through the troubleshooting process. It's a lot of times really frustrating when you do have an issue with your otherwise healthy and happy application, but this is a really great way for you and your team to actually go ahead and figure out how to troubleshoot things and also understand the best practice and proactive things you can do to prevent that particular issue from happening again. So I actually put down several additional workflows here that you can try out according to your particular workload, whether it's App Service on Windows, Web App for Containers, or Azure Functions. So you can go ahead and read out those steps if you need a little bit more guidance navigating through App Service Diagnostics. All right, so to finish off, I had a really great time sharing these new features that we have up for build, so definitely check all of that out. But if you want more resources, here are all of the list of helpful links and resources to not only try out App Service and Azure Functions itself, but also App Service Diagnostics, which is what we focused on in this session. If you want a more detailed walkthrough, I know we only had a little bit of time this time around, definitely check out the diagnostics walkthrough. That will actually show you the end-to-end troubleshooting experience across the different things in the App Service umbrella. And if anything, feel free to reach out to me at JenLeeWA on Twitter, or email me with further questions, feedback, new ideas for new detectors, so on and so forth. I'm really happy to hear them, and I'm sure the team is happy to build on them as well. So with that, main key takeaway, try out App Service Diagnostics anytime you want to look at best practices, but also when you're dealing with your next issue on App Service or Azure Functions. Thank you, and have a great Microsoft Build 2019.